Claire's in Kennington. Claire, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi. I think that in a way you're a bit guilty of this false news thing. You've been reporting about the time of the queues, which is actually shorter than it's being publicised, and it's been sensationalised. Because I've read some of the stuff online today. Admittedly, I don't buy newspapers very often anymore. And I don't think they're having a massive go at Meghan Markle. I think they're just pointing out that that's what happened. And from my point of view, I'm not a royalist. I'm not a particular. I like to watch these things because I think they're sort of majestic and the historic importance. And I am sympathetic towards what's happened to him and his mother, but as part of a very formal procession. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were the only couple to hold hands when they were in Westminster Hall as part of that very formal part of the procession.
I know that Zara Phillips and her husband held hands in the hall as well.
They weren't in the processional bit, though, were they?
What difference does that make?
They were to the because I think it's being televised. It's part of this big show of monarchy.
Yes.
And it's very, very formal, and everyone else managed not to do it. And in that way, I think
they didn't want to.
Self-indulgent.
Self-indulgent.
Yeah, I think it's a bit self-indulgent to feel the need to hold hands when they're part of such a formal bit of the procession.
Is there a place we can go to find out when it is and is not acceptable to hold hands with your wife? Because I'd hate to get it wrong myself at a family funeral.
I know it must be absolutely horrendous.
But where do you get your where are you getting your guidance from on this?
I just think the fact that people have noticed it suggests that you don't do it quite then. But I agree, it must be really difficult to actually follow every royal protocol, especially if you haven't been brought up as part of it.
It's the part of the day that they did it in, because I've got pictures in front of me of other couples holding hands in exactly the same room.
From my perspective it is, because I think it's much more noticeable because it gets broadcast around the world.
But you've only noticed it because
we're in Westminster Hall.
You've only noticed it because you looked up all the people being horrible on social media. You don't read the newspapers and you didn't notice it yourself on the television.
Well, to be fair, I think I have noticed it in certain situations.
We're only talking about one situation, aren't we? What other situations? What other situations are you thinking of now, Claire?
Look, I'm quite a tactile person myself, and I'm a big believer in.
Well, don't hold your husband's hand at your grandma's funeral, whatever you do, Claire, because people like you will be slagging you off on national radio. No, it's not different.
It is. I think it is different. I
think because they're better than you,
and it's in Westminster Hall. No, because it's a show, and if you're going to be part of that show,
right? You
just need to.
So, what were the other examples you were thinking of a moment ago?
In sort of formal situations, I guess. But I'm not saying that it's only necessarily only then. Well, as part of the processions and things like that, I think they tend to be more. Slightly more tactile, and I think it is more noticeable. But it's only because
and you have a problem. You have a problem with that. Why?
I don't have a huge problem
Why
with
have
it
you rung me
in many ways, because I think my point is that it's being televised, and in that particular point. At that particular point, it's the majesty of Westminster Hall. It's the history of it.
Yeah.
And they are very formal, aren't they? That's the way they do it.
Yes, but I mean,
and some of it is horrible, and it was horrible that he had to walk behind his mother's coffin.
Here is Zara and Mike Tyndall walking up exactly the same room, holding hands.
Come on, James. I've already made that point.
What point is it you think you've made? That they did it 10 minutes earlier, so it's okay. But if they'd done it 10 minutes later, it wouldn't be.
They're not part of the formal procession, and it is formal, and therefore be formal. That's my point.
Okay. And finally, my point again is where does one go to find this guidance? I mean, on what basis are these people deciding that it was inappropriate behaviour?
Well, I think I agree with you that it must be a minefield.
Also, if he's not allowed to wear his uniform, is he still subject to all the other protocols as well?
I don't think anybody actually knows the answer to that, do they?
Well, you do.
No, I don't know the answer to it.
Well, here you are.
I know, but you're trying to make it very sort of black and white. Or,
no, I'm not.
I'm to the other.
I'm quite the opposite. I'm trying to understand why anybody would ever have a problem with two people holding hands.
Because I just think that was just such a formal occasion that you just need to not do it.
What do you think the Queen would have said?
I think she's very politic, isn't she? And
so I'd like to hold hands with my wife. I'd like to hold hands with my wife, Grandma. Is that okay with you?
Maybe if she'd have been there, they wouldn't have done it. I don't know.
If she'd been there wouldn't be a funeral, Claire. I think we can all agree on that. But if she was asked her opinion by her grandson, who said, "I'd really like to hold Meghan's hand at this point in proceedings. How do you feel about that?" What do you think she would have said?
I don't know. But
do you think she would have said, "Well, let's check with Claire. Let's check with Claire in Kennington"?
No, I've told you I don't know the absolute answer to when you shouldn't.
I think you do, really. I think it's your grandma's funeral and you want to hold your wife's hand. I don't even think there's a debate to be had or a conversation to be had. And I think you probably know that deep down, but I respect you and I thank you for having a crack at trying to explain the behaviour of these ghouls and vampires. And you know, we must put on the record the argument that it's very, very different to do it at that precise point in proceedings as opposed to at previous or subsequent points in proceedings when other people...
Welcome to C News, your ultimate destination for the latest buzz, breaking stories, and everything you need to stay in the know. Whether it's the hottest headlines, trending topics, or the stories everyone's talking about, we've got you covered. Don't miss out, hit that subscribe button now and join the C News community for your daily dose of news, served fresh and fast. Let's keep the conversation going. James O'Brien, the celebrated British broadcaster known for his sharp wit and refusal to tolerate flimsy arguments, recently made headlines when he skillfully dismantled a caller's complaint about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's habit of holding hands in public. The exchange, which took place during O'Brien's popular LBC radio show, showcased his ability to expose the often trivial and unfounded nature of criticisms aimed at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The caller, a woman named Elaine, expressed outrage over what he described as the couple's inappropriate and over-the-top displays of affection. Elaine claimed that such behavior was unbefitting of members of the royal family, who should maintain decorum and respect tradition. Her main grievance was that Harry and Meghan's hand-holding was a blatant rejection of royal norms, implying that it demonstrated a lack of respect for the monarchy. O'Brien's response: O'Brien, ever the seasoned debater, immediately challenged Alan's premise. "Elaine," he began, his voice calm yet authoritative, "are you seriously telling me that two people holding hands is what's keeping you up at night? Of all the challenges facing this country, rising living costs, political chaos, a stretched NHS, you're here to complain about how two married adults choose to express their affection." Elaine stumbled for a moment, trying to assert that her issue wasn't with affection itself but with the perceived message Harry and Meghan were sending by behaving differently from other royals. She argued that their hand-holding was a deliberate attempt to grab attention and defy royal conventions. The breakdown of the argument, O'Brien, with his trademark mixture of logic and sarcasm, pressed further. "So, if I understand you correctly, Alan, you're suggesting that Harry and Meghan should be more like, let's say, King Charles III and Queen Camilla, who rarely hold hands in public. Is that right?" Elaine agreed, seizing on the example of the king as a standard of royal propriety.